Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Happy Monday. Hope your week is off to a tremendous start. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. In the meantime, for those of you who attended the Titans and the Buccaneers at Nissan Stadium, it's good to see a lot of people out there. I'm sure you enjoyed some of the stuff that you saw on the football field. I think we got a lot of answers to some questions that we have about this roster in a critical week coming up for the local professional football team. You want to jump in? We'd be glad to have you. 615-737-1045 is how you do so. 615-737-1045. Lucas is here. He's making it go. Good morning, bud.
Good morning.
Charles Davis will be here at 12:20. He was on the call for WKRN News 2 and the Titans preseason television network, calling that game on Saturday night. So we'll go in detail and get some analysis from Charles Davis. Maybe even talk a little Tennessee. Why don't we? We're pretty close to Ball State week.
A week from Thursday.
That's spicy. So maybe we talk a little Vols with Charles because you know he's always down. So, of all the things that we learned, we'll do stock down, stock up here in just a second. Do we have the bell? Do we have all the bells and whistles necessary for this thing?
Indeed.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to our high-level radio production quality momentarily. But a lot of different things kind of materialized. I think that from the perspective of the thing that's going to be the biggest talking point basically throughout the entire offseason, Malik Willis, again, mixed results. I thought it was completely fine. I thought the whole experience with Malik was improvement in some areas, some things we talked to Mike Vrabel about yesterday, and still some situations like one of the sacks that he took where you're looking right there at the check down and Jeff Swaim is standing alone with nobody within 10 yards of him, and Malik instead has already looked down basically to tuck out of the pocket, and by then the NFL defenders, preseason defenders who are trying desperately to make teams, have already swarmed. So from his standpoint, fine. I will be honest. With Logan Woodside, because I wrote this after the game, I wrote basically that this experiment I'm good with. I'm at a point where I'm okay with them moving on from Logan Woodside from active roster discussion. You cut him, you put him on the preseason, you stash him with one of these practice squad protections that you will have in this situation. I believe 4 players they can protect on the practice squad each week. Logan Woodside is a tremendous candidate for that. But beyond the physical, like the turnovers, he's played less than 4 quarters of preseason football in these 2 games. And he has 3 turnovers to show for it. 2 where, well, I guess each interception you have to look at individually. The one on Saturday night, he just didn't have enough on it. Like, he just underthrew a wide-open Treylon Burks, and instead the corner was sitting right there, and it hit him in the chest because Logan couldn't get it that far downfield. The second interception in Baltimore, tip drill, not necessarily, like, you're not going to blame him completely for that. And then the first one was just a questionable decision. And I wrote this after the game. I'm okay, move on. Like, it's fine. He has uses. You don't have to be done with him wholesale. But if Malik is in a place where you trust him enough to know how to operate, which, by the way, is still in question, then you make the decision not to necessarily carry 3 quarterbacks into the regular season, and you make the math a little easier on yourself when you're making these difficult roster decisions. And by the way, they don't have to make that decision this week. They let it play out. They will let it play out. And then when they go from 80 to 53 next Tuesday, then a more serious discussion can be had about, okay, how far behind is Malik as far as just the general operation that we need him to know and enough execution for us to trust him? That's what it boils down to. That's why Malik continues to get the lion's share of the reps. Woodside came in on Saturday night about the middle of the third quarter. And it wasn't a situation where, like in Baltimore, the coaching staff yanked Malik Willis because he wasn't doing the things that they needed him to do. And we'll get into the details. You'll hear from Malik. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel. You'll hear from Logan Woodside, as a matter of fact, because I asked Logan Woodside about how he felt about his job on Saturday in the locker room. Lovely to be back in the locker room, by the way. and this was Logan Woodside. Did I just hear myself? We were making jokes on Twitter the other day about hearing myself. Like I'll never have, it was something to do with the Antonio Brown statement. You remember those memes going around recently here on the internet?
Yes.
Where he's saying, his only regret is that he'll never have the privilege to watch himself play football. Then all of a sudden I started being the butt of jokes about me never having the privilege to hear my own radio show. There it is.
I'm going to start doing that and then just be like, what are you talking about? No.
What did we do where I thought, I took a call and I was arguing with myself? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was because I can't remember what we were talking about. It was like, what were we saying you don't want to wait until Christmas for? Because that's what it was. It was
I don't know.
Something Titans related, but the guy whoever called in left his radio on.
I was straight up arguing with myself on the air.
No, but you were agreeing though, because
I was just hearing me make the same point.
Because you opened the line, and then it was like the delay, on the radio of you saying you don't want to wait until Christmas, and you went, "That's right, you don't want to wait." That's a great point. It's a great point by you. Before we realized it was indeed yourself.
What a d-bag! What are you gonna do? Here's Logan Woodside in the locker room after Saturday's game. Like the night was.
I think, obviously, got to stop turning the ball over. Other than that, I felt good out there, man. Thought I made some good decisions. I thought we moved the ball. We just had some penalties and stuff, kind of shoots in the foot. But we got to finish drives in the end zone.
On the turnover, though, it looked you had an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody could fault you for trying to take the opportunity there.
Yeah, I wanted to give Treylon a shot at it, and then sometimes that's how it goes. I could have probably put a better ball on him, and that's just what it is. I was trying to give him a chance to go down and make a play.
For these two preseason games, do you feel like you're getting out of them what you need to?
I feel, obviously the production not there as much, but for me, mentally, just seeing the game better and kind of just understanding what the coaches are trying to get out of the system and also the play that's being called. So I do think it's been beneficial for me for sure.
Where do you kind of feel like you are right now as far as the team goes?
I'm just trying to find a role each and every day. It's been ever since I got here, just tried to come in each and every day, try to put my best foot forward, try to learn, continue to grow, and hopefully that's enough.
The last two preseasons that you've had, you've gotten the lion's share of the reps during those games and all. This year, obviously, they're trying to get Malik integrated into the system, show what he can do. How has that changed your approach and just your overall reaction?
I don't think it's changed my approach at all. Whenever I get a chance to go in there, that's my opportunity to go in there and lead the offense. So whether that's in the first quarter or after halftime, it doesn't really matter to me. Just try to go in there and execute.
So that's Logan Woodside, caught up with him in the locker room after the fact. But upon second viewing, I didn't feel bad about Woodside. I really didn't. Not nearly as strongly as I felt watching that game for basically a quarter and a half on Saturday night. I didn't think his decision-making was bad. He spoke to that as well. The turnovers, though, are what you cannot have. You just simply cannot make those kind of mistakes if you are going to be a backup quarterback in the league, because there's plenty of bad backup quarterbacks in the league. Plenty of physically underwhelming or less arm-talented backup quarterbacks in the league. I happened to watch two of them play on the opposing sideline against the Titans on Saturday night. I didn't think Gabbert or Trask looked I didn't feel any better about them than I did about Woodside. It's just kind of a general baseline. Competency and protect the football. I believe Logan Woodside to be completely competent. I saw him make good decisions in that game. The coaching staff saw him make good decisions in that game. But what I cannot have is in less than 4 quarters of preseason football, 3 turnovers. It's just, you can't exist that way.
They're the inverse of each other, right? Logan Woodside knows exactly what to do and when to do it. He feels out the pocket. He's comfortable in there. He just can't make the throws. He can't make the plays. Malik Willis has all the ability to make the plays. He just doesn't have the mental processes that Woodside does.
And by the way, these two guys look appreciably worse because the tackle situation on this football team right now.
Especially late in games.
Oh, my God.
In preseason games.
No. It is an unfair sample, just as it is unfair to the wide receivers who aren't catching some of these passes, these open opportunities, they're winning on their routes, just as it's unfair for them because the quarterback play is suffering, it is unfair to the quarterbacks that the offensive line play is this poor, especially in pass pro. Goodness. Like you have to grade these two on that kind of stuff. In fact, like Lawan, and we'll talk about this later on in the show, because there was a handful of vets that got some snaps on Saturday night that I didn't necessarily expect to see. But I wouldn't blame them if the thought process about having Lawan out there for 5 or 6 plays or however many snaps he got was to say, okay, just give me Malik with a little bit of time on the left side, and then maybe I'll feel better about how he's working on his timing in live action, which I don't know necessarily how I would feel about if I was Lawan, but it doesn't matter. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the logic, because their pass pro is so poor beyond that.
And Malik didn't even look comfortable until like the second quarter anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like it took him a while to settle into that game.
Yeah, so we'll come back to Malik, because I want to hear from Malik on that very subject a little later on in the show. But let's focus on individual players right now. Everybody's had time to watch it back. We've already talked to Mike Vrabel about the game. There's one position where I feel the competition is already over. And in fact, both starting spots that were up for grabs, I think I have concrete answers to after this much of camp. We're going to talk about that next. The question that I want to ask you is this: who do you think had the best performance in the preseason? Who do you think stock rose the most? And who do you think stock fell? We'll talk about that with all kinds of fancy imaging coming up next.
Willis looks left, looks to the right, comes back, fires. Touchdown! Titans! Chig Okonkwo! The two Atlanta natives who knew each other in high school hook up for a big 6.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Oh my God, I love Mike Keith. That's incredible. I was talking to somebody in the press box about this at some point post game, because I like to listen to Titans radio during the game, but I've been listening to them on my laptop, so there's a delay. I guess I have to get one of these like little pocket FM radio type things. That you see like grandparents at basketball games
Go
wearing.
old school with it.
Like I guess I'm gonna have to get one of those to listen to them while I cover a game.
Yeah.
In the broadcast
Because the
booth.
stream will be delayed.
Right. And it would help it just anyway. Like that sounded like regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Mike, man. They're the best.
You should have heard the fake punt. Or, I say fake punt. It was not a fake punt.
It was not a fake punt.
But he made a Ryan Stonehouse hands quip after he dropped the snap and then picked it up and ran for a touchdown. It was excellent.
There's nobody like either of them for different reasons, but there's nobody like Mike and Mac, I swear. It is the rare play-by-play guy in any circumstance that can make the preseason feel like a playoff game, and that's exactly what he did there on a lovely pass from Malik Willis to Chig Okonkwo, rookie to rookie, as Mike said, to give the Titans a lead, to further their lead at the time. It was a really nice play by Malik. They capitalized with points after a turnover. He held the ball for a little bit. He was waiting for things to come open, but he stayed in the pocket. He stayed in the pocket. He delivered to Chig. It was a nice touchdown pass, and that was the kind of, just the way that he rips it, man. He absolutely, I need more touch out of Malik Willis, but he just absolutely tries to throw it through you. It's crazy, the amount of velocity that he has on that ball. But it's kind of like, do you remember, I think it was during the 2012 Joe Flacco and the Ravens won the Super Bowl? I think that's right. Niners, Ravens in the Super Bowl, I think after the 2012 season, so it would have been like the 2013 Super Bowl. Anyway, I remember reading an interview with Anquan Boldin or hearing something Anquan Boldin did leading up to the Super Bowl. Like Joe Flacco, if you don't know how to catch the pass properly, it'll break your fingers. Like Matt Stafford's got some of this too, where it's just such a high rate of speed that this thing is coming into you at, that the receiver legitimately needs to have a proper protocol to catch the pass from a certain kind of quarterback. Malik is that dude, man. He absolutely ripped it in there. Now, there was a couple of different things that we'll get to later on in the show where we'll talk about stock up, stock down. Because for me, and I'll tell you this, because we'll spend more time on Malik. You'll hear from him at noon. I think for Malik, for me, I just kind of felt flat about it. Like I saw good progress where I needed to and still saw some of the rawness that he's going to continue to work through. And that's basically what it's going to be, basically what we've seen in practice. And that's all well and good. So with Malik, I'm going steady. But with a couple of other guys on this roster, both good and bad, I felt that they did themselves. It was interesting to watch how that kind of materialized from a week of work against the Bucs into a preseason game. So let's go ahead and open up the preseason stock exchange, shall we? Excellent work by you. Stock up, and I'm going to go off the board. I'm not going to take the obvious ones out of the gate. How about Joe Jones out there making plays? This man was in on the interception, a pressure caused by Rashad Weaver, made a nice pick, a little bit of a return, was active throughout the course of the game. He's been on the roster, I think, since last year, maybe 2020 at some point with a practice squad situation. I'd have to go look up his bio.
Definitely last year.
Really quick. But yes, definitely last year. Joe Jones, who continues to find ways. So as we talk about inside linebacker depth, guys who have been active in the preseason, Joe Jones has gotten a lot of snaps. Chance Campbell has gotten a lot of snaps. Is it Jack Gibbons?
Dr. Gibby.
I only know him as Dr. Gibby, which is not very professional of me. But yes, Dr. Gibbons Is it Jack? Do we know for sure?
It is Jack.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to
Who was it that reported that Gibbons at some point throughout camp told Vrabel, like, Coach, I was never pre-med. And Mike was like, I know, Dr. Gibbons. It's a joke, man.
I know. Just the idea of Mike like chuckling to himself and being like, I know that, Dr. Gibby. It just makes me laugh. So stock up Joe Jones. I thought he had a nice performance. He's consistently available, to his credit. And as you look at guys who are trying to find back of the roster type of spots, special teams is not somewhere I've watched him, so I would have to go back and ascertain a better picture of him to determine, okay, is he actually going to be a roster guy or not? But what I saw from him defensively, I thought was quite good.
I'll go stock down then on Dylan Cole. And to no fault of his own, he hasn't been out there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been available, and you're seeing other inside linebackers stepping up, like Jack Gibbons, Dr. Gibby, like Joe Jones. Chance Campbell is playing so many snaps.
He's playing a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're necessarily good snaps, by the way. I just think he's playing a lot of snaps.
Like Vrabel was asked about him playing with the ones, right? I put that in quotes in joint practice, and Vrabel's like, okay, we don't have any bodies at inside. Monty Rice is still on the PUP list. Like, they're not really, they're not going to work Zach Cunningham and David Long in the preseason games. So, don't put stock into that. But he's playing a ton of snaps. He's growing. And Dylan Cole, the Joe Jones thing on special teams will be critical to Dylan Cole because we know that's where he's made his impact. And I felt like he had a chance to make this roster, not just as a special teams guy, but obviously hasn't practiced, right, since we saw him limp to the locker room after that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's not exactly like Danico Autry has not practiced at all. He just doesn't practice. And I don't know what's going on there. Now, I know, just kind of going down the list of things that because Autry had some knee stuff. But did participate in mandatory minicamp. He has practiced at some point in training camp. I would have to go back and look at my notes. I don't think it's been basically since the calendar turned to August, which would have been still right at the very start of training camp. So it's not like a Danico Autry situation where, okay, you're generally aware of a situation where a veteran is not practicing, but you know that Danico Autry is going to know what to do once you put him out there. Like, I'm not worried about that.
Oh, yeah. He'll be fine.
With Dylan Cole, the human bicep, I don't know enough about him and his development at this stage in his career to say that he can miss a lot of these practice reps and then be able to still have his spot as inside linebacker depth piece, as he was getting those reps prior to getting tangled up at practice a couple of weeks ago. So just by nature of volume and repetition, muscle memory, these guys are starting to improve because there's just not as many. There are more reps to go around for guys when dudes get injured, unfortunately. So you went stock down. I went stock up. Do you want to stock up and then I'll go stock down? How do you want to do that? Are we doing a snake draft?
Hey, I'll take one of the obvious ones for stock up and say Kyle Phillips.
Okay.
With his 35-yard return, making a man miss at the 20, and then dragging defenders after he got across midfield. I feel like that is one position battle that has been all but decided now. Kyle Phillips as your starting punt returner.
We asked Mike about it yesterday at the game review press conference. And basically he just goes, well, that's a bright spot. So it is definitely something that they feel confident about and comfortable with. Now, that first one that he had where he took it out probably when he should not have, he still made a nice play on it. I think it ended up being like a 27-yard return.
Yeah.
But still, it was just one of those moments where, okay, he's going to feel this thing out, but he's got good spatial awareness, clearly. He understands how to kind of work the angles with the protection that he has in front of him. And that's something that they've lacked significantly. Just somebody who can give them any kind of net advantage. Darius Jennings, I think, led the league in return, like kick return yards.
Right. Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah,
Maybe that was 2018.
It was 18 because he had that return against Miami in the season opener, the first game of the Mike Vrabel era, longest game in NFL history.
But it wasn't consistent.
No.
Like it did happen, to his credit. He made a play, but like it wasn't something where you looked at him on a weekly basis and said, okay, that guy is going to give us a considerable field position advantage.
And seeing Kyle Phillips, I know it's a punt cover situation, completely different than facing a defense, but just seeing him with the ball in his hands and what he can do, it does kind of start to validate the hype that's been surrounding him throughout camp.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. We're stock down, stock up. Wait, you didn't do the bell. You're not doing the bell. What happened with the bell? You forgot we were doing a thing?
Yeah.
What happened?
Stuck down on Dylan Cole. Sorry, Dylan.
I don't know why the buzzer makes me laugh that way. It's just something about the
piercing,
the bluntness of just there go your hopes and dreams. It's very cruel. Okay, speaking of cruel, stock down. Woo! Dylan Radins. Buddy. I feel strongly that is not a situation. I have been developing feelings on this for quite some time, but I do not believe that is a starting right tackle at the NFL level right now. Like, I did not feel great about David Quessenberry on the right side last year. You cannot have that guy. We are close enough for me to say, it's not going to get substantially better in what? Are we 2 weeks? 2 weeks from the first game?
September 11th is the first game.
I don't want to do math. I know it's the 22nd. I'll screw that up. But I think it's, basically, okay.
It's 3 weeks.
It's like 3 weeks.
From yesterday, yeah.
Okay, like 3 weeks. All right, everybody relax.
Oh, we are so incompetent.
I get scared.
I do too.
I see numbers, I get scared. I don't know.
It's August 22nd. We were like, what are there, like 24 days in August?
It's
23?
not that hard. It's the closest thing. So I see those memes going around on the internet of like, I'd see Joe Dubin do it a lot because Joe is just stereotypical dad joke on Facebook or something like that. And it's like a picture of just a completely confused parent looking at his child's homework that they've gotten an F on, that the parent has done the homework himself. That's what I feel like when I just look at even numbers, just to see numbers on a calendar. They scare me. Anyway, Dylan Radins. I think that is going to be a situation where you slowly, at least in practice, you start to see Nick Petit-Frere get the bulk of the reps at the right tackle spot in the same way that you've seen Malik Willis do with the twos at practice. I think they need to get that guy as ready as humanly possible to play as soon as humanly possible, because I don't think Dylan Radins is a feasible solution. I don't think either of them are ready, but I think that I feel better about the rookie getting up to speed faster than the issues that I see Dylan Radins having. I talked to him also, Radins, in the locker room, and I'd be curious if his answer on Sunday, after he watched himself back and after he went through with his position coach, I would want to know on Sunday after he watched the film if he felt the same way that he did when I talked to him on Saturday night, because on Saturday night, it sounded like he thought that went well.
I feel like tonight went
pretty well. I mean, it wasn't perfect. There's a lot of things to improve on. But overall, I think I gained a lot of confidence in the areas that I was looking to gain confidence in, and just looking forward to getting into next week. So,
what areas are those?
I'd say just like before I was asked questions, this run game, obviously switching to the right side. I feel like I'm a better run blocker than pass blocker, and tonight I just felt like obviously it wasn't perfect, but just being able to work on my pass game a lot and get good punches in and just get the feet correct. I think that helped me gain a lot of confidence today.
For the offense as a unit, though, to be able to have opportunities to capitalize points off the turnovers, how big was that for you guys?
It was huge. Our defense came in clutch tonight. Obviously, we had a lot of penalties on offense, so we got to fix that moving forward. But our defense capitalized, got us the ball in short field situations, and we were able to capitalize on those situations.
I would love to talk to him in an honest moment like today and ask him the same questions. And I don't know what. Again, I speak from a place of total ignorance when it comes to the technique required by these guys to play their positions, much less to switch sides over the course of now going into his second year from playing exclusively left tackle to now playing right tackle. Because if it's as hard, I mean, I don't have any comprehension for that. I don't write with my left hand ever. I'm a righty. Like, I do everything right, so I'm assuming that if it would be like trying to write with my left hand, or I think hasn't Radins been asked about this? It's like trying to wipe with your left hand.
Yes,
if you wipe
that is
with
what
your
he
right.
said.
That's such an offensive lineman thing. Just go right to the bathroom jokes. Anyway, I think, and I don't know if that means that he can play at guard. Like, I don't know if that prolongs the guard competition. But I would be shocked to see him unseat somebody like Aaron Brewer, who they trust very much to be able to do his job. So maybe it's going to continue to slow play it. It doesn't mean that he's a complete wash of an NFL player, but right now that guy can't play right tackle, and that was something I talked to Greg Cosell about last week. We've played this audio for you guys before, but I think it's particularly important to hear it again after Saturday's game.
Yeah, and again, it's what the tape shows. And Radin still has significant problems at the right tackle position in pass protection. He reaches, he lunges, and that causes balance and body control issues. I think it was on the first series where you saw that against the Ravens, where he reached and he lunged and he was beaten. Now, I don't think he was responsible for a sack or something of the sort, but I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at him. And he has really, really struggled with that. And as we speak today, Buck, he is not ready to be a starting right tackle. Whether that he gets better and better, I can't answer that. I'm sure the Titans can't answer that. They're working with him. That's what you do. But at this moment in time, you would not feel comfortable lining him up as your starting right tackle week 1.
And that's the biggest question, right? There's still time, but not less and less time every day as we get closer to the regular season.
And keep one thing in mind. Week 2, they play Von Miller. And, what that means is it's easy to say, oh, well, he can't handle Von Miller. Obviously, a lot of people can't handle Von Miller. But what that means is what is the result then for your offense? Because as we talked about with their third down offense a year ago, then that requires you to keep people in a back or a tight end to help with your right tackle. And then that limits the options in your pass game, particularly on third down. So it has a domino effect on the rest of your offense and the rest of your pass game. Now, I'm not saying Petit Frere, who I thought actually he played 28 snaps, and I thought he played well. And I thought it appeared that he took to coaching well, because some of the concerns that clearly showed up at Ohio State did not show up in this game. I'm not there every day, so I don't know if they're showing up more regularly every day, but he tended to reach and lunge in college. It was very noticeable when he played Aiden Hutchinson. It was very noticeable when he played Arnold Ekubetti from Penn State. But it didn't show up in this first preseason game. But anyway, the point I'm making is even if he's the starter, he would need help too against Von Miller, because obviously Von Miller is one of the great pass rushers of the last 10 years, and Petit Frere would be a rookie right tackle. So he'd need help as well.
That was last Wednesday, and you could basically play the same analysis. In fact, it's going to sound very similar, because I told Greg we're going to talk about these guys again. It's going to sound very similar on next week's install. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it because it is so, because you saw the same issues. You saw the same kind of flaws. So I think ultimately, and this has been a super long stock down, I'm sorry. Is that from Family Feud? Is that where the buzzer comes from?
Yes, but I think that sound is just kind of universally used.
Okay. But I don't see the kind of improvement that you would want to see from him. And I think that regardless of who it is, it's going to limit their passing game early, because they're going to have to help on the right side regardless of who's starting at right tackle out the gate. With tight ends, with running backs, like there are going to be some limitations as they get whomever it ends up being up to speed. But if you asked me today who you would rather see, I would tell you I would want Nick Petit Frere to get way, way, way more reps than Dylan Radins at this point, because you got to get this guy ready. We're going to talk about a situation with the University of Tennessee that start to bubbling up here in just a second. But let's go to Phil in Portland, who wants to chime in. Hello, Phil.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking. Hey, Buck, I got a question. I don't know if you ever thought about it. I just wonder who cut those lights off in that Baltimore game. I was thinking maybe they
the Super Bowl,
hired,
the Niners Super Bowl.
Yeah, that really made me upset, because that changed the momentum of the game. They should have hired that guy from Motel 6, Tom Bodette. He would have kept the lights on for him.
Kept the light. Okay, wait, Phil. How much money did you have on it? How much money did you have on it that the lights being turned out affected the outcome of the game? How much?
Well, I didn't really have no money on there. I just wanted somebody else to pay for the food. We kind of bet on who's going to pay for the food that night. So, it was one of those situations. It just frustrated me. I'm like, you can't even keep the lights on. I mean, even Tom Bodette was able to do that. So just want to. Hey, much love for Tom Bodette. I don't know if y'all remember him, Motel 6. Great guy.
No, we know the line well. Thank you very much for the call, Phil. Leave the light on for you. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the most powerful entities in American sport and business, frankly. And they can't keep the lights on during the Super Bowl. Unbelievable. All right. This Brew McCoy situation is nuts. I'm going to tell you why next. Sunshine for who? I don't necessarily know about what's going on with the Brew McCoy situation. Not so sunny Southern California with a not so sunny statement. Or a what did Austin Price of VolQuest say on Twitter?
A half-truth.
A half-truth? What? This story continues to be weird. Is it just the University of Tennessee that has these transfer problems? Because you and I were talking about Aubrey Solomon, the defensive end who transferred from Michigan, who took basically until it felt like the week before the game, he was cleared as far as his eligibility concerns were. I know that I feel like Cade Mays had some issues. Wasn't that covered pretty at length?
Yeah, remember Uros Plavsic in basketball? It took till midseason before he was declared eligible from Arizona State.
So USC, in a statement yesterday, Brew McCoy, the wide receiver, who's transferred. He's not played a lot of football because of off-the-field issues. And there has been some questions about his eligibility. He is not officially eligible to play for the University of Tennessee just yet. But he is transferred from USC. Everybody's trying to figure out, okay, who's not done what correctly, who didn't file paperwork in a timely order, who didn't submit whatever they needed to submit to the NCAA. What is the NCAA doing that's causing it to drag its feet? Like, where is the chain of things failing that this guy is still basically, he's waiting until the end of August and perpetually with 11 days, did you say, until kickoff?
Whatever.
Oh God!
A week from Thursday.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you again. That's the second time we've done that today.
I think it's 10.
Did you see what I did there? I asked you what it was because I didn't know. I was scared. Why are we so bad at this? Regardless, why is the NCAA so bad at clearing transfers? The Brew McCoy situation. So it goes back and forth, and now fingers are being pointed naturally. And USC issues a statement saying that it is not standing in the way of former wide receiver Brew McCoy's quest to become eligible for the 2022 college football season at Tennessee. USC said it has promptly responded to every request from Tennessee related to McCoy's eligibility, and now he has been in the transfer portal, or rather entered the transfer portal in January, committed to Tennessee in May. That's the timeline. Quote, at no point since Brew entered the transfer portal in January have we objected to him being made immediately eligible at Tennessee. So you got Josh Heupel on Friday, who's come out and said, listen, we've done everything. We've done everything that they possibly can at this point to make sure that this guy's good to go, and still we have no answers. Basically, I don't have the exact quote in front of me. In fact, timely enough, Lucas has the audio, he says to me. So let's hear from Josh Heupel on Brew McCoy.
Yeah, obviously, getting him prepared, being able to rep him, all those things, you'd like that before you start your regular game plan week. Essentially 7 days before kickoff. That's, best case scenario where you're able to work him and incorporate him and plan for what it's going to look like when we run out of the tunnel. Our administration's, done everything that they possibly can. They've been great throughout the entire process, from the very beginning, and they're still working as hard as they can to give him the opportunity to play.
And y'all still don't know when you might get an answer?
I don't have an answer on that. There's, some things that are out of my control, Brew's control, and our administration's control in this process, and everybody on our side is working as hard as they possibly can to make sure that we come to a resolution as quickly as possible and give a kid an opportunity to go play.
So that's Vols head coach Josh Heupel talking about the Brew McCoy situation, and Austin Price is getting after them. Austin Price, of course, of VolQuest, who tweets at Austin Priceless. Since they want to post their same half-truth statement, he says, of USC, I'll post the deal again. So he cites good reporting by Trey Wallace. USC obviously felt some pressure because of Vol Twitter and emails and so on and so forth. With that said, their statement is bathed in half-truths as they still control his eligibility with a signature on a non-participation opportunity form. Remember what I said about people not filing the correct paperwork at certain times? USC had indicated multiple times to both Tennessee and the family of Brew McCoy that they were going to do so, sign this NPO, as it's called, this NPO form, but now has refused to do it and have put this on the NCAA. Their statement was in support of Brew and to help with Tennessee's appeal, but they could have easily made this one-stop shop by signing the non-participation opportunity form. So, who wants to take the blame for this? The NCAA is the easy bad guy. Always. I think they are probably too often in the same way that I kind of fall for, we all do, kind of fall for the NFL owners bait a little bit when you're just using Roger Goodell as a punching bag for problems that are much bigger than him and more revolve around the people that directly employ him and that employ him specifically to take these kind of PR hits. Sometimes we forget that. It is also easy to forget that the NCAA is also beholden to all of these different institutions for a variety of different administrative stuff that must be nightmarish, must be an unholy suffering. Whose inbox do you think these things are going to? Because it makes me sick to think about. I hate emails now. Can you imagine being the person who has to process all this stuff? And not to say that the NCAA has done an exceptional job with their own administrative practices. Clearly they have not. But they are not always the clear and obvious villain in these certain circumstances. And so USC is basically trying to slough off the blame. They're not taking responsibility for an issue that seems to be also equally on their part to resolve.
Yeah, so if this is true, they're not actively preventing this from happening, but they're also not doing anything that is in their power to make it happen, which would be extremely hypocritical from that program whose success is completely dependent on a litany of transfers on both sides of the ball.
So 2 news items before we put a bow on Brew. First, from the NFL, and then we'll get into the Tennessee one because I want a little more detail on this, just briefly. Adam Schefter is saying that the Panthers have officially announced Baker Mayfield as their starting quarterback for opening day against the Cleveland Browns. So Baker revenge game officially on. Now, the second news item having to do with the University of Tennessee. What is happening with Lynn J. Dixon? What happened here?
He's not on the team.
He just got here. What do you mean he's not on the team? He just got to the team.
He announced his transfer from West Virginia to Tennessee 18 days ago. And VolQuest reported yesterday he's just no longer with the team. We have no details. He's been at practice, but no idea what happened. There's been nothing reported as to why the fit may not have been right. If it was a Lynn J. Dixon thing, a Tennessee thing, I don't know. But they're back to having 4 scholarship bodies at the running back position.
So if he's no longer with the team, so he's gone from Clemson to West Virginia to Tennessee, and none of them have worked out.
Yeah,
now,
he was at West Virginia.
Situation different.
Right. He lost the job to Will Shipley. I mean, he had the opportunity to step up and be the guy after Travis Etienne. He was the complimentary back to Etienne. But Will Shipley just raced by him on the depth chart. And he's a sophomore this year. Shipley is at Clemson. So Shipley did that as a freshman when Dixon was a senior. And Dixon using this, I believe, as a COVID year because he was being recruited throughout 2017. Goes to West Virginia for 2 months, plays in the spring game, and then transfers to Tennessee.
He didn't transfer here under the assumption that he was going to be the starter.
No, I wouldn't think so. None of us read that and said, Lynn J. Dixon's now that you're a bell cow running back.
I'm just looking at context clues based on opportunities that he did not have at other places to play. That's an assumption. I don't have any information on that. That's just kind of where my thought process is taking me.
Will and I talked about it on the UT podcast last week. Hey, look, Lynn J. Dixon, probably is not a number 1 or number 2 running back with this team. Jabari Small and Jalen Wright have shown what they can do. I think they really like Justin Williams-Thomas, the big power back freshman out of Georgia. And then that other freshman, Dylan Sampson, might literally be the fastest player on the team. And he's getting work at kick returner as well. So I don't know where Lynn J. Dixon stacked up. Maybe that has something to do with it.
We're gonna get some more information tomorrow. We'll get into Tennessee in greater detail. Titans not having practice tomorrow. They're just having a walkthrough, so we're not doing the show out there. They are on the practice field today, by the way. It is from 1:30 to 3, I believe, are the hours of the actual on-field practice. So Blaine and Mickey are going to be at camp? Blaine and Mickey are going to be out there?
They will be out there today, yes.
Fun. Look at that. Okay, so we'll have more information on that. Speaking of preseason, speaking of training camp, some observations about the Titans starters who played and some Tennessee players across the league who got some good action in the preseason. And also, I want to talk about Treylon Burks and the amount of time that he is playing in the preseason as a first-round pick. That's all coming up next. Stick around. 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans were off on Sunday after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 13-3 in preseason game number 2 at Nissan Stadium on Saturday. Malik Willis got the start, 7 of 17, 80 yards, and this 6-yard touchdown to fellow rookie Chig Okonkwo.
Willis looks left, looks to the right, comes back, fires. Touchdown! Titans! Chig Okonkwo!
As Mike Keith on the Titans radio call, Willis added 42 yards on 5 carries. Titans are back on the practice field today from 1:30 until 3, and Blaine and Mickey broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park starting at 1. Nashville Soccer Club got back on track at Geodis Park on Sunday, cruising over FC Dallas with a 4-0 win. 2 goals and an assist for Hani Mukhtar, giving him 14 goals on the season. Nashville back in a playoff spot at 6 in the Western Conference. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down. Happy Monday. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been hanging out with us so far, we're having a great time. We hope you are as well. Hope your work week is off to a smooth start. Tennessee Titans played a home game on Saturday. How about that? I made some observations. So I watched it differently than I would a regular season game because I went down to see some people who were in the stands that I knew at halftime. And then I just sat for the bulk of the third quarter and watched from the lower bowl. Like there was a bunch of open seats down there, especially by that time because Woodside was already in the game. So I think people there was a trickle out on a Saturday night of people who had adequately pre-gamed whatever their evening's festivities were at the Titans game, and then then things started to become a little more sparse. But I thought I have been to less well-attended regular season games in that stadium than that preseason game was on Saturday night. I was pleasantly surprised by the atmosphere in there.
It sounded good.
It looked good. And I think it timed out well. Like we were bitching last week about Saturday night preseason games. But if you're going to work on a Saturday night, you hope that the crowd's going to bring it, and the weather held off, and there were no lightning delays, thank God, because nothing worse than a preseason game with lightning delays. For everybody involved, players, fans, people working, all of it. No thanks. But I thought there was a fair amount of buzz at Nissan Stadium. And a lot of it revolving around the quarterback situation. Now, I got a kick out of something that I saw in the Zone TV chat. You can interact on the phone lines today if you like, 615-737-1045. Or you can jump in on the Zone TV chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. We're live streaming in all of those places. Eric Reed on YouTube wrote, and it made me chuckle, what position battles are we talking about today? Are we talking about the one that Dylan Radins is losing or the one that Caleb Farley is losing? And I think one half of that statement is so. Because Charles Davis is going to be here at 12:20, and I'm looking forward to talking to Charles from somebody who has experience and understands the nuances of the position in ways that somebody like me cannot. What I saw from Caleb Farley on Saturday night and what I saw from him on the second day of preseason practice, I felt really good about, one, the amount of snaps that they're playing him, and two, how he is looking in an extended sample size. It's not every snap going to be perfect, but I think that I feel comfortable with what Caleb Farley still has to learn. Like, I'm not expecting them to throw him out there on the field in week 1 against the Giants and for him to look like a finished product. I think that he could look much better against a quarterback like, say, Daniel Jones versus Josh Allen, which comes his way the next week. There could be a substantial difference in how one quarterback makes a secondary look versus the other, especially when you're talking about the drastic jump and talent gap between those two people. But what I saw in an extended sample size of Caleb Farley, again, I felt pretty good. And when we talked to Mike Vrabel about it, I thought, one, it was a pretty funny exchange between Vrabel yesterday and Teron Davenport, because Teron and I have spent time talking at practice about, and I think Teron has said this several times, basically he wants to see Farley get as many reps as humanly possible because he just didn't have time spent at corner. He recruited as a wide receiver to Virginia Tech, switched over to corner, played one full season at that position, and then missed time because of injuries and COVID. And then comes into his second year in the NFL, and he's still trying to make up for lost time that way. So the Vrabel back and forth was funny on the front end, but I thought his answer on Farley and how they were managing him throughout the course of the week at the end of this was pretty spectacular.
But with Farley getting so many reps, what is it? Is just a matter of getting him as many opportunities as possible, trying to see as much as you can from him? Because I'm curious, because as a rookie, I would think McCreary would need a lot of reps also, but there's variance.
That's why you write and I coached.
I'm just giving you my opinion, and I'm asking yours, that's all.
When I ask for your opinion, you can give it to me, Teron.
Along those lines, what kind of goes into the thought process on who needs work, who maybe doesn't need work with one preseason?
Well, we try to identify the practices. These were two pretty good practices, and you just look around and see what guys did. And to Ron's question, it was we really want to start seeing guys string some days together, and I think that's where you start to build consistency. You start to build, most importantly, confidence. And so I thought Caleb's second day was much better than his first day, and so hopefully that we could string a third day together, which would have been the game, and I think that happened. We talk about Caleb's emotions. He's just so excited to be out there. He hasn't really played a whole lot of football, and I noticed early on against the practices in Tampa, he was pretty emotionally spent, which then caused him to be physically spent. It was just just trying to get him to focus on his emotions and keeping them pretty neutral so that he can have as much energy for each and every play and to withstand the length of the game, the heat, the conditions that they have. Corner, you got to run. And so that's just another opportunity for him to get some conditioning. And, it was good to see him have a couple good back-to-back days.
Is that something you find yourself having to consider, when you're evaluating Farley, the fact that he hasn't played the cornerback?
That's always something. And just, whether he started with us and then, had the setback, had the injury. And the more that you can see out there, whether it's formationally, situationally, one call may mean something. You may have some details in a call on 1st and 10, and then it could be 3rd and 5, and the details could change. And we're talking about the stick situation, and we want to be pressed, or are we going to get picked, or just. And those are the things that I think he's continuing to work on.
Farley, what is leading to some of these moments where his guy gets behind him? It's happened out here on the practice field with your own guys, with Gracie a couple times. It happened in the first practice, and it happened with Scotty Miller last night, where the receivers gotten behind Farley.
It's just you're trying to make sure that you're challenging and that you're staying square. And you can play 20 yards off, and everybody will say, well, why are they catching passes in front of them? So, it's a fine line. And, we just have to make sure that when these guys get past that, that break point of, where they're going to start making cuts inside or outside, that we're starting to transition vertically. And I think that may be a situation where, Caleb's trying to stay square and read the demeanor of the receiver, and he just has to read it sooner and get into, what would be his stride to match that vertical route.
So it's a longer exchange, but I think it gives you a really full picture of what they're working through with that player right now. Now, did Mike have to rough Teron up on the front end? No, maybe not necessarily. But I also think that it ended up leading to a great question because I don't know if Mike felt bad or if Mike could feel us having kind of a visceral reaction to the fact that he just kind of hit Teron over the head in the middle of a press conference. But it ended up leading to a great answer. And that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to get more context for what these guys are working through right now and what the coaching staff, in as much detail as they're willing to provide to us, and it doesn't benefit them to give us all the details, but it does help us understand the context for the individual. And what the individual is working through right now took a lot out of him in 2 days of joint work. And to have a coaching staff rightfully understand, recognize the situation, and basically have to play pop psychologist on top of all these other things that you associate with the job of coaches to do, it's good recognition on the part of the staff and getting the best version of the player that I think you saw manifest in a larger sample size on Saturday night. He has places where he can improve, certainly. The question about getting beat deep, Scotty Miller had him. Like, Scotty Miller had him beat, and I think was the pass just dropped? I think Scotty just dropped the pass. I don't remember it being a terribly inaccurate ball. Like, I think they had the opportunity. I need to go back and watch the play. But I know exactly what he was talking about on the right sideline, or the sideline closest to the home bench. He just got run off the line. He just got ran off the line. It's not a good snap. That's not a situation. That's not a matchup that Caleb Farley you would say, okay, he should win that 10 times out of 10. And yet, NFL wide receivers are going to make plays on corners from time to time. It's how he kind of reacted to the play after that, and so it did not stack bad plays. Kind of the behavior that the coaching staff is looking for in live game action, or as close as they can possibly get. Now, let's talk about somebody who had a lot of action on Saturday night. Again, Treylon Burks is playing into the fourth quarter of these preseason games. And as a first-round pick, I find that curious. I wonder if you do. Let's talk about that next.
Camarda to punt it. Low liner. Again, Phillips has a chance from the 21. Beats the first man. 25 to the 30, to the 35, to the 40, to the 45. He's to the 50, stumbling into Bucs territory, and he's finally taken down at the 43-yard line. That's 36 yards on that return. Otten finally got him, but Kyle Phillips showing what he can do with the punts.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
That's Mike Keith. Titans Radio Network broadcast. What time is the game coming up on Saturday night? Anyway, that was their broadcast of
same time, I think.
Titans and Bucks. I want to say it's the same time, but I don't want to give people misinformation. So perhaps
Will Bowling says it is.
Okay, very good. Well, are we taking that as just that's all it takes? Will Bowling says it is. No, you're on camera, idiot. Put that pig hoof of a middle finger away.
Well, that way, if it's not, it was Will Bowling that said it and not us.
Oh, okay. So
if it is, everybody's right.
So we're just taking a hatchet to the credibility of the morning show now. I don't mind this. It's been a while since we've started an interstation fight, and I feel like just to kind of get myself hyped up for football season, maybe we wait till Labor Day week, since it'll be slow and there will be no football, and we'll just be waiting around until the Giants game. Maybe we start a fight then.
The game is at 6.
Okay, very good. So with all of that being said, I would like to know why Treylon Burks played so much. I think there can be a variety of different reasons, and I asked around about this just kind of before the show today to help me understand, okay, what exactly are they looking for from him? What are they looking for in him late in games? Because he's playing considerable amounts of snaps into the fourth quarter in these preseason games. He played 35 on Saturday night. It was by far and away the most of any wide receiver. Reggie Robertson had the second most with 24. Kyle Phillips played 22 offensive snaps. Des Fitzpatrick, 19, and Cody Hollister, 17 to round out the top 5 there. Nick Westbrook-Akina also did play. He got six plays in with the Malik and the offense. There was a variety of different vets for the Titans that got some snaps in spurts and also made a couple of plays. So that was nice to see. For Treylon Burks, though, basically the answer that I got was, well, it's as much about a conditioning thing as anything else. We want to see how long into games he can play. Can he continue to sustain? We're testing what this is going to look like into a game if conditioning was already a kind of thing that we were monitoring. How much can we give him before technique breakdowns, for example, start to kind of fall off? Before, he's not getting off the line as quickly as you want him to, which, by the way, is a great advantage for him. He can beat a defensive back off the line and get behind him in the same way that Scotty Miller can. He doesn't have to be a straight line burner to just be more explosive than the defensive back in front of him or who's ever playing in coverage around him. So what they're looking for, in part, and there may be other reasons too, but the most consistent answer that I got back from people is, yeah, we want to see how far into games we can play him before we start to see these kind of breakdowns that are causing technique or a lack of consistency, for lack of a better term. And Mike Vrabel was asked about this basically to start the press conference yesterday, before Malik Willis, before anything else was covered. We started with Treylon Burks.
The snaps he got last night, are you seeing him get targeted in games the way you'd like to?
Well, the thing that I've always tried to say with regards to receivers is they can't control when they get the ball. Okay, all they can control is that they get open and that we can review the film and say, hey, this is where we would like the ball to go. I don't want to tell quarterbacks, hey, throw it to this guy. That's not the direction that we really want to head. But was really encouraged by some of the things that he did, especially without the football, trying to block. There were times that he was open, whether that be for a catch and run. And then there's some other times where, we would like to see a better route. Just continue to progress and work on the conditioning in the game and all the things that are required of the receivers.
Overall, from a game plan perspective, can you kind of figure out ways like to get manufactured touches for him?
Well, we can do that with everybody, just not in a second preseason game.
Overall, though, improved consistency from when we last talked about it in Baltimore from like the week of practice into the game?
Yeah, I think that there was, certainly improvements on things that we had talked about, and then there are going to be, adjustments or coaching points that we'll make with them and him and everybody else when they come in tomorrow.
So that was Mike Vrabel on Treylon Burks. And so I saw some people starting to discuss this. In fact, there was a Pro Football writer. Is it Eric Janke? Is that how his last name's pronounced? They've got Anthony Trash that looks like trash. And they've got Eric Janke that looks like, I'm saying it, Janke, but I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. Either way, basically people who don't regularly pay attention to the Titans but are monitoring things, preseason games around the league, looking around and saying, okay, why is the first-round pick playing so many snaps in a preseason game? This is not like what's going on in other NFL situations. Why is Treylon Burks? And it just kind of furthers a narrative about something that they may perceive but is not actually happening, and it kind of propagates or adds fuel to the fire when you do it on the internet and people just have blind reactions to it. So I think that's kind of my takeaway about Treylon Burks is, okay, there's it's not necessarily that he's doing something wrong or that he's, that he's running with the 2s and the 3s in substantial ways, but they're looking for conditioning work for him because game speed is different than practice speed, and that's going to matter. They can't just, have him walk off with the trainer in the middle of the second quarter in a game where his services are going to be required in the way that sometimes that may happen in practice, or if he's dealing with whatever situation he might be dealing with, conditioning, asthma, or otherwise, whatever the case may be. They're trying to get a look at it. Now, other observations that we took from other preseason games, quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks playing substantial time in these games. Josh Allen played well into that Bills blowout of the Broncos when Blaine and Mickey and I came in here on Saturday to start the League Company Countdown to kickoff. I saw Patrick Mahomes play well into the second quarter in ways that I was frankly disgusted by. Get him off the field, you dopes.
It's not just quarterbacks. Like Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I saw Travis Kelce get a concussion in a playoff game that probably cost the Chiefs a win over the Titans a year. If that happens in a preseason game, fire all of them. I don't care how far removed or how few years we are removed from Andy Reid winning a Super Bowl. You dope. We have it on the poll, Lucas. Without context, does Andy Reid like to live dangerously? I'd be curious to how people take this. I think the thing that most people default to is, one, how much he looks like a walrus, and two, his love of cheeseburgers as a post-game celebration, and then back to grinding the tape. Like, those are the two things most commonly associated with Andy Reid. But when you put it on the poll, does Andy Reid like to live dangerously? Without context, what are the results?
69%. Nice. Say yes, he does. Andy Reid, a thrill seeker. That's the only explanation. Like, you don't need to find out what you got in Pat Mahomes. I know he has a totally new wide receiver core around him.
What is he doing?
I get it.
Why is he out there?
I know. A whole half is nuts.
So it happened during the first hour of the pregame show, and I was progressively getting more and more pissed watching that game while we were on the air leading up to Titans and Bucks, saying, bleep you, Andy Reid, get him out of there. Get them all out of there, you dope.
Yeah, and like Sky Moore didn't get, a catch. He had one target. I don't think Juju was out there. McCole Hardman wasn't out there. He suffered a groin injury that they don't think is serious, but he had to get carted off of practice the other day. So it's really just Travis Kelce, who he obviously already has a connection with. So you don't even have the logic of trying to bring this new young wide receiver core together because most of those guys weren't available. So a whole half is bonkers. I mean, that is crazy.
So elsewhere around the NFL in the preseason, some just general takeaways from what we saw in the preseason. I think that Pittsburgh is going to be way better off with Kenny Pickett than they are with Mitch Trubisky. Preseason snaps are not everything. Comprehension of the offense does count. But certainly in looking at how much better he looked doing the same things basically that they were asking Mitch Trubisky to do, I think Kenny Pickett is starting to emerge there, the first-round rookie out of Pittsburgh.
He was efficient.
I saw a lot of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne.
Played a whole half.
Starting to get a better feel from what that may look like as James Robinson continues to work his way back from an Achilles injury, so you'll expect to see a lot more ETN for the Jags early on.
Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones also getting a ton of time in that game with Lawrence.
I continue to feel hugely optimistic about Jacksonville. Just as a maybe we do this week one or the week leading up to week one of the NFL season before the Thursday night kickoff with the Bills and the Rams. Because, I want to talk about games of teams that I only want to watch at the start of the season. Before they are clearly and obviously terrible football teams. The ones that I'm curious about. I'm legitimately curious about what the Washington Commander football skins team looks like with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Because I don't think they're an untalented. I think they've got decent skill players. I like their defense. I know that who's the Ohio State stud that's been hurt? Chase Young.
Young, right.
Chase Young. I know that defense did not have quite the juice that it was expected to because they've got a talented front four, but it didn't account for much when Chase Young went out. But Washington and Jacksonville in week one is I'm going to call it the East Nashville hipster watch list of NFL week one games. You know what I'm saying? It's for the not for the thrill seekers. What would you call it? It's for the alternative crowd. But I don't want to watch I don't want to watch the Jags in week 10 because they're probably going to be out of it by week 10. I want to watch the Jags in week 1. That's the kind of stuff that I'm curious about once the regular season gets up and rolling. But I saw a good sample size of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and I feel continued optimism about Jacksonville.
Good sample size for Tua as well.
Yes.
Tua Tagovailoa played a couple of drives. He was 6 of 8 for 58 yards, no scores, and then Teddy Two Gloves took over from there. But I do feel like
Who did not, by the way, have a good outing. I watched some Teddy Bridgewater snaps. Oof.
Yeah, completed only 50% of his 20 attempts. I'm surprised if there's one team that, has a young quarterback that you would like to see more of in a competitive environment. I figure it would be the Niners with Trey Lance. He had 5 attempts, 4 for 5 in week 1 of the preseason. He did not take the field in week 2. I don't know what the plan will be for week 3, but you're seeing all these veteran quarterbacks getting significant snaps. Mahomes, I guess that's an outlier. Nobody else is doing that.
Allen played.
But Allen played.
Josh Allen played. I would not play Josh Allen.
I mean, Carson Wentz got 9 attempts in. I'm just surprised that the Niners aren't trying to throw Trey Lance out there a little bit more when that's such a big question mark. So much of that roster, that's a pretty good roster, hinges on the progression of the second-year quarterback.
Now, I didn't watch their game against the Vikings. Did Garoppolo play? They're not playing Jimmy right now, are they?
No. Brock Purdy got the start.
Yeah, I would not benefit them at all to have him out there right now coming off the shoulder surgery because if he looks bad, you're not going to be able to move him.
Yeah.
And if he gets hurt again, you're not going to be able to move him. And they're desperately trying to get this dude off of the Niners roster. Vols in the preseason football action. I saw some of Velus Jones for the Bears, and I thought he had a nice return. He made a couple of plays, some that Justin Fields, I think, had missed opportunities on with him. I think Justin Fields also working through some bad habits he picked up his rookie year. But outside of that, Josh Dobbs sounds like he had a nice weekend. And it's not Todd Kelly.
No, Todd Kelly was the young safety that played for Tennessee.
Okay.
Whose dad was also a Tennessee player in the 80s. No, you're thinking of John Kelly.
John Kelly
Jr., who had a nice outing for the Browns. A couple of VFLs played well. But Josh Dobbs kind of turned some heads. I mean, he's QB2 and Watson is suspended.
Yes.
For 11 games. 14 of 20.
The alternative is Rosen?
Is Josh Rosen, who was 7 of 20.
Yeah,
in that game. Dobbs was 14 of 20, 141 yards. He carried the ball 4 times for 47 yards and a touchdown. Had the one electric 36-yard run where he somehow spun out of pressure in the pocket, almost had his jersey ripped off, and then tiptoed up the sidelines for a 36-yard gain. And then John Kelly, the former Vol, they overlapped a little bit at Tennessee, had 14 carries for 66 yards and a score.
So there were 2 main preseason takeaways, and we'll wrap it up this way because it affects the Titans. The week 1 opponent for Tennessee is the New York Giants. Now, there were 2 substantial things to come out of the New York Giants preseason game. One, people are talking highly about Daniel Jones this morning in ways that are shocking to me. He looked good in a preseason game.
He had really good numbers.
The article I saw this morning, the headline on ESPN was preseason went to – no, I'm sorry. This wasn't on ESPN.com. It was on SportsCenter. the question was asked, and I don't remember who the analyst was that they were asking, but basically, will Daniel Jones' preseason heroics translate to the regular season? Preseason heroics, bleep you. Get out of my face, preseason heroics.
What a ridiculous phrase.
Nobody is heroic in the preseason. You know who gets dubbed preseason hero? Guy like Ryan Stonehouse, who muffs the snap or muffs the hold or the whatever the situation is, whatever you want to call it.
The snap.
Muffs the snap on the punt. I can't remember which of his 4 punts it was. Regardless, he runs for a first down. He runs for 9 yards. He makes a play. If he does that in an NFL team, a special teamer, a guy like Matthew Slater for the Patriots, who has just solely survived on his ability to run down the field and knock the holy hell out of people, and that's how he's going to make his living. If Matthew Slater, well, he's retired now, but if that kind of player, if Darren Bates, career special teamer, sees Ryan Stonehouse running with that football, he's going to kill the punter. He's going to kill the punter. You can't get away with that. That's what gets dubbed preseason hero, and it's also a situation where you ask Vrabel about it at the end of the game, and he's like, yeah, I'd like him to catch the snap. I don't care about what he runs. I don't care if he tries to reset and kick it. I don't care if he tries to run with it. I want him to catch the snap and punt. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's not a good play for Stonehouse. Like, it was fun. No. It was fun for us, but you need to catch the snap.
It's what? No, it's not fun for us.
Yes,
no.
It was. No, it was fun. Stop it, Buck. Stop it.
No.
A long-haired rookie punter dropped the snap and then scampered around the corner for a first down in a preseason game, and that was fun. Everybody that watched that play had fun, including you.
I did, admittedly, in real time. But it's not that we actually had fun. It's that's what we'll settle with. That counts for fun in a preseason game. I will not. We have standards, damn it. I will not allow us to depreciate so far as what we settle for as entertainment because we're so damn thirsty for football that is fun. No.
You can't complain about the preseason, and then when something fun happens in a preseason game, just keep complaining about something fun happening in a preseason game.
It's the only place where that specifically settles for fun.
The irony of it is the game as a whole, stock up for Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah.
That play, the most exciting play of the game, arguably, was a stock down moment for Ryan. was technically Stonehouse's worst play as a punter. Got to catch the snap.
So that's my spiel on preseason heroics. Daniel Jones, out of here with Daniel Jones. But also, Kayvon Thibodeau, their first-round pick. How many first-round picks the Giants have this year?
A few.
Did they have a few?
I thought they did, or maybe that was the Jets that had all the first.
The Jets,
picks.
I know, had several.
Yeah.
I want to say the Giant. Maybe fact check me while I tell people about what happened to Kayvon Thibodeau. He left the preseason game last night against the Bengals with a knee injury, and he was almost immediately ruled out. So automatically, you default to worst case scenario, and you do the thing where you look at people's Twitter timelines in a situation like that, like David Chow, who basically just this Pro Football Doc guy on Twitter who just called the Zach Wilson an ACL tear in real time without any vetting information. He just said it on national radio during the game, during the broadcast off like 2 Twitter clips.
Yeah, I felt kind of reckless.
It turned out a bone bruise, like
not an ACL tear.
No.
He might play week 1.
Right. So it's nonsense. There's a legitimate conversation being had about can Zach Wilson play with this situation, or is Joe Flacco a better option at the time? But don't look at that. I think that's such a flawed thing to do because it completely spins out of control.
Yeah. He gets an MRI today, Thibodeau.
And so he'll undergo further tests, as Lucas said. But right now, he is being considered a day-to-day evaluation. Now, I did see some I didn't see anything confirmed reporting about the nature of the injury as of yet. But that obviously impacts Tennessee. If he's not available, 3 weeks to go. We'll see how significant of a knee injury it is. But that is something to keep an eye on as we continue to move forward for this particular situation. But the
Giants, by the way, had 2 first-round picks. Thibodeau was 5. Evan Neal out of Alabama was 7.
That's right. And I like Evan Neal. He's looked solid. The situation for Daniel Jones, and I will grant people raving about Daniel Jones in the preseason the benefit of the doubt because he looked comfortable. It's not like he looked uncomfortable, but again, I've seen him make all kinds of errant throws this year to where he looks comfortable. He just misses the throw. He did not have a performance like that last night. I thought he was largely strong overall with as the starting quarterback with the first string offense. But obviously, a lot of that momentum gets sucked out of the stadium when Kayvon Thibodeau leaves with a knee injury, and it's ruled out. Anyway, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Let's talk about some Titans veterans that played. We spent some time on preseason at large. Vets that played on Saturday night for Tennessee and why they may have played. We'll talk about this coming up next. Malik Willis as well, and Charles Davis going to join the show at 12:20. I'm Buck Rising, 104.5 The Zone. All right. Welcome back. So just as we were talking about Kayvon Thibodeau and an injury impact or injury situation that may impact the Titans and Giants in week 1, as we get closer and closer to that, reports from Ian Rappaport. Giants pass rusher Kayvon Thibodeau has a sprained MCL, according to a source. The ACL is intact, but out about 3 weeks, which would directly impact the Titans and the Giants. Because we are, what is that? So we have done this before. We are 3 weeks away from the Titans and the Giants playing.
And Schefter adds the Giants are hopeful he'll be ready for week 1.
Okay, so they are hopeful that he will be ready for week 1, but if he plays in week 1 and you're getting a banged up Kayvon Thibodeau against an offensive line for the Titans that I still have considerable questions about on the right side of the line. I know what Nate Davis is. I'm not worried about Nate Davis. We haven't seen Nate practice or play. We've seen Nate practice, but we haven't seen Nate play in the preseason. I don't need to see Nate Davis play in the preseason. I was shocked to see Lawan play in the preseason. And I don't think we asked Mike Vrabel about this yesterday. Maybe I'll do it after practice today. But why, if putting Lawan in was as a means to help try and get a better picture of what Malik could do with proper protection instead of some of the sloppiness, a lot of the sloppiness that was happening with the reserves in pass pro. Because I feel for both of those quarterbacks, they can't manage when the pocket or when the pocket is so poor and when the protection is so poor that way. So with all that being said, Kayvon Thibodeau now a situation to monitor, and it does make you feel better about the Titans being able to get into the swing of things. Because the Giants' problems are not on defense. We'll have plenty of time to preview that game, or weeks and weeks, literally, to preview that game. But that is just something to keep an eye on if you're looking for things that may affect the outcome. Winning in the margins, and there's more than margins in the trenches. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Let's go to Timothy in Nashville this morning. Hello, Timothy.
Yes. How you doing, Mr. Buck? I got a problem with you.
Okay.
You were talking about all the excitement about a punter. What about Dallas Cowboys? What about them punt returns?
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the Cowboys game. Tell me what happened.
The new one we got from the USFL, he ran two of them back.
Really? They had two return scores in the preseason game? That's crazy.
Yeah, 2 of them for over 85 yards, both of them.
Okay. Well, when I watch the Chargers, because I will watch a little bit of that. Did Justin Herbert play in that game?
I don't think so. But no, actually, that's a good call by Timothy because Kevontae Turpin was the MVP of the USFL last year.
Ooh.
And he was electric in that preseason game for the Cowboys as a punt returner.
I'm reading the headline now. Thank you for the call, Timothy. 615-737-1045. By the way, do you see what happened there? You got excited about the punter, and I'm the one who gets blamed for it. So just remember, anytime you say something, I'm gonna get attached.
It's a great situation for me.
It's just trash, is what it is. That's my cross to bear, I suppose. So Turpin has kickoff, punt return, touchdowns. Cowboys beat the Chargers, is the headline. So Kevontae Turpin became the first player in 9 seasons to have a kickoff and punt return touchdown in the same game, preseason, regular season, or otherwise. And they won 32-18.
98-yard kickoff return.
That's wild.
For a score. And then an 86-yard punt return.
Oh, damn. I'm seeing the highlight, too. There's nobody around this guy.
It was electric.
Woo! He is gone. And that's early on. That's in the first quarter. He has this kick return. It looks like a kick return.
They were both in the first half.
Yeah, no, the blocking around him is absurd. There's nobody within 5 feet of him. As he takes this first one back, it looks like. Okay. Well, when I go back and watch a little bit of this, I'm not exactly, thrilled to be watching Cooper Rush and Will Grier play snaps at quarterback, but I'm curious. I'll go take a look. If you talk about game changers in the return game like Kyle Phillips, you hope projects to be in Tennessee, then that is something to keep an eye on, especially when tomorrow comes around and we'll have roster cuts at 3 p.m. Obviously, Lucas and I will be off. Well, no, you'll still be No, you'll be off the air by the time the roster cuts.
Yeah, because they drop like right at 3 on the nose.
Well, they're made official at 3.
Right.
They get submitted earlier in the day. The league processes them, and then the waiver gets made public at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yes, we will talk about roster cuts Wednesday in greater detail. But I think that I've said that word a lot today. I don't know why.
Detail?
Yeah. I think that also bothers people, the way that I say that word.
I think it does. I think that, and then when you say Anywell.
Raccoon.
It's all right. We all have those.
I don't know why I do the Anywell one, because it's not a word.
It's not a word.
Anyways, well, doesn't matter. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that when I go back. I'm going to watch some of these preseason games back on Game Pass just so I can kind of get a better feel for what's happening around the league, especially because the second one feels like if you're going to see starters, you're going to see starters this past week.
Yeah, and I love we had somebody tweeting at us saying that we're wrong for bemoaning coaches for playing starters for that long in a preseason game.
Who said
because
that?
I think Mr. Two-Tone on Twitter telling us that we are wrong about that because, well, I'll just read the tweet. Yes, Mr. Two-Tone Blue, you are wrong. You play starters to knock off the rust. I know you remember the abysmal Cardinals game the first week last year. They looked like they never touched a football. So, yes, knock off the rust for that game that's happening in 3 weeks.
It is among the stupidest things that I've ever heard. If Derrick Henry is rusty, I would rather him. He's a professional athlete. He'll work it out. It's going to be okay. If you play starters in the preseason and they're rusty, it means that they look like bleep in practice too. To think that we are still in this Neanderthal, it's the same kind of logic that has Andy Reid out there playing Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes for a half in a way that makes me want to grab him by his substantial shoulders and shake him. Be like, what are you doing? Stop it. Cut it out.
I also love the idea that like maybe 4 carries for Henry, which is what he would get, would be sufficient enough to quote unquote knock the rust off.
Are you so dense as to see? Find for me, or let me find it because I think I have it. I think I have it up on my laptop anyway. I want to know that. So your starters that played in the preseason. Let me give you the snaps of the starters who played in the preseason. Lucas, do you know how many snaps total that Taylor Lewan played in the preseason for the Titans on Saturday night?
I'm going to guess 6.
On the nose, 6.
Yeah, because it was 2 drives, right? And there were 3 and outs.
That's correct. The fewest of any offensive lineman who played, 6. Do you think Taylor Lewan was adequately unrusted?
Oh, he's good to go.
With 6 snaps?
3 weeks from now, he's going to be good as new.
I'm not saying that you're an idiot if you think this way. I'm saying that you're displaying the behavior of somebody who is an idiot. To think that professional athletes with 6 snaps of football, 2 3 and outs in the case of the Titans offense on those first 2 drives. I don't know why I'm so passionate about this. I don't know why I'm so angry about this. It's just an antiquated way of thinking that people in the league still do. And it makes me want to cry. It makes me want to cry because if you cost me the opportunity to, as a football fan, watch the best of the best perform on Sundays because you played them in a preseason game, bleep you. We're going to talk about Malik Willis next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans were off on Sunday after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 13-3 in preseason game number 2 at Nissan Stadium Saturday. Malik Willis, 7 of 17, 80 yards, and a touchdown. He added 42 yards on 5 carries. Mike Vrabel spoke on the rookie's improvement from week 1 to week 2 of the preseason on Sunday.
We'll continue to coach him and his pocket presence and being able to keep his eyes downfield. And, it's such a fine line. But just look at the beginning part of the game and the one timing pass that we needed to complete and wanted to see him do. He did it. So, we at least made some progress there. And then we'll continue to work, on some of the other stuff.
Titans will be back on the practice field tomorrow from 1:30 to 3. Blaine and Mickey are broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park. Today practice from 1:30 to 3. Blaine and Mickey starting at 3. In other NFL news, the Carolina Panthers have named a starter. Baker Mayfield will get the nod, taking on his former team, the Browns, in Week 1. And Giants defensive end Kayvon Thibodeau, after an MIR today, will be out 3 to 4 weeks for the Giants. He is hopeful to be back Week 1 against the Titans. I hate you. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's an MIR? Third down on a Monday. What happened, buddy? What happened there?
You happened.
No, I didn't happen. What's an MIR?
I can't believe I said MIR. I didn't realize I said MIR.
Welcome into hour number 3 of the show. That's Lucas Panzica. He's making it happen. Maybe or maybe not reading the sports updates correctly. I'm Buck Rising. I'm with you till 1 o'clock.
Do you know what MRI stands for?
Oh, God, no.
Magnetic resonance imaging. So Thibodeau actually got a magnetic imaging resonance.
What are you doing? Settle down. I think I just hung up on 2 people at the same time.
You did.
I don't know what happened there. Call us back. I'm sorry. 615-737-1045. I tried to pick up the phone. I tried to pick up the phone while Lucas was talking to put somebody on hold. And both calls dropped.
You dropped 2 people.
I'm sorry.
That phone is so easy to operate.
If you want to call back, 615-737-1045. I promise I'll get you in. Yes, we have been talking a great deal about the preseason game between the Titans and the Bucs. A win for the Titans in the preseason. By the way, speaking of preseason wins, you see what happened yesterday? Ravens won their 22nd preseason game.
So many things happened yesterday.
Oh, my God. All the phone lines lit up. Did I hang up on 3 people? What happened? 615-737-1045. Yes, there's a lot of different things to take away. We've talked about stock up, stock down. I feel infinitely better about Caleb Farley. I feel infinitely worse about Dylan Radins. Or just really, let me not say infinitely worse about Dylan Radins. I don't feel good about Dylan Radins. I don't believe him to be a starting right tackle. I don't feel good about the right tackle situation for them writ large. That includes Petit Frere, who may be better at some point, but also is not ready. My bigger issue is that Radins is not ready as well, and that's not ideal. So with all those different things, the thing that we've kind of been waiting to talk about till right now is Malik Willis. And what kind of stood out in the situation for him in this second preseason start? Now, there was some improvements clearly and obviously. I don't think anybody would dispute that. If you want to look at his statistical efficiency, he was in the passing game 7 of 17 for 80 yards. He got sacked 3 times, lost 12 yards. He had the touchdown pass to Chig in the red zone to capitalize off of turnovers. And as far as what he did versus Logan Woodside, again, I would tell you, I don't feel outright bad. I felt better about Woodside yesterday than I did on Saturday night when I wrote, which is not fair to Woodside, but still. Looking at the situation for both of these guys, I am still comfortable saying that I'm good with the Woodside experiment being relegated to the practice squad. Enough. Get Malik Willis as ready as humanly possible. And in all these different things with the quarterback situation, I thought it interesting that Charles Davis last night said, or Saturday night said, that for anybody who's paying attention to this stuff, Ryan Tannehill's job is not in danger. Ryan Tannehill's not in danger of losing his starting job. That Charles Davis needed to say that on the broadcast, I found interesting. He's coming up next, by the way. Charles is, not Ryan Tannehill. Riley is in Spring Hill, wants to chime in. Hello, Riley.
Hello.
What you got for me, buddy?
What do you guys think about the Titans not playing Tannehill in the preseason? Because it obviously looked back from last year and what happened game 1 against the Cardinals.
Well, thank you for the call, Riley. So, Lucas, I think the last time Riley called us, I got accused of going soft on him about a question when I've just had a rant about playing starters in the preseason, specifically as it relates to week 1 against the Cardinals, and Riley having the same question. He's not going to get a lot. They're not going to play him a lot, Riley. They don't want him to get hurt. It's stupid to play him it's not stupid. I understand the question. It's just not sensible to play him in the preseason. He's going to get the reps in practice. The preseason is not going to make a difference for Ryan Tannehill. It does make a difference for Malik Willis, though. And when we asked Vrabel about Willis yesterday, I thought Mike's response was pretty telling, and he gave a good example of where Willis specifically had learned.
Yeah, so the thing that, obviously that stood out was, we were able to rip a timing route in there to Nick early in the game, which is something that he didn't do last week. And we worked on it in practice, and it was cool to see him be able to hit that, and maybe he can kind of see how the whole process works, the play pass, the timing of it, and 21-yard gain. Other things that we still have to, and we still want to be able to work on, the operation, at the line of scrimmage, the command. I just think it's tough to run, talk to him about running out of the back of the pocket. And there's times where he's going to take off and make plays, and protection breaks down, and he's going to shrug guys off, and he did that, and found Dez, found Hassan. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially our quarterbacks, and just, you run out of the back of the pocket in this league, these guys are coming. So we'll continue to coach him and his pocket presence and being able to keep his eyes downfield. And, it's such a fine line, but just look at the beginning part of the game and the one, timing pass that we needed to complete and wanted to see him do. He did it. So, we at least made some progress there, and then we'll continue to work, on some of the other stuff.
So that was Mike Vrabel on Malik Willis, and an example of where he had repped something in practice, where he had identified it in the game, where he had ripped the pass in for 21 yards to Nick Westbrook-Akina, and you feel great about what you saw because you saw him take practice reps to the playing field. And for a situation like that, for Malik Willis, as you're trying to identify where is he good enough, where is he making progress, what do we trust him to be able to do? And it's a similar conversation that we had last week. The operations and command that Vrabel is talking about is not insignificant. The command of the huddle and the ability to put people in the position to succeed pre-snap is as important, if not more important, than the actual execution of the play. I understand that sounds counterintuitive. I would say to you still that you have far more opportunities to screw a play up if you botch it from the outset, as opposed to getting everybody in the right protection, making sure you're identifying what you're seeing, making sure that you're calling out the correct things before you take the snap, understanding the snap count, doing all of these different things within a 40-second play clock, and then getting the play off. Because then once you get the play off, then it's about making the play within the structure of what you got. But if you don't get yourself in the right position in the first place, then you're kind of banged, right? So seeing that still kind of uncomfortability, not a word, but you understand my meaning, seeing that kind of discomfort, that's the right word, discomfort from Malik Willis in those moments, not a bad thing. And that was kind of something that Malik spoke to. I thought Malik was great in the post-game press conference with us afterwards, and this was the Titans preseason starter through 2 games.
Well, I felt a little bit more comfortable, but it's not about feeling comfortable. It's about making it a big point to stay in the pocket when I can, not just because I'm athletic or I can get out when I want to, just to get out sometimes. It's just understanding when and when not to, and that's the biggest thing. That's why I'm a little disappointed in myself for tonight. I think I got it a little bit too much, but it's a growing process. It's my second preseason game. I'm not going to be too hard on myself in that regard, so I'm just excited and blessed that I get another opportunity next week.
Do you feel like you made progress in that regard, Malik, in terms of, getting the ball out quickly and passing it from the pocket, or was it about the same as week 1? What were your thoughts?
I think thinking about it, it was a little bit better than week 1. I got a few checkdowns that I stayed in there and just got it out quickly, but not by much. I think it's something I just need to focus on and continue to just find that in between from when I need to play, make a play, and when I don't, just climb in the pocket and help my O-line out.
So that's Malik Willis on Saturday night. And I thought he articulated a lot of stuff that Vrabel was walking us through on Sunday after the fact, after Mike had the opportunity to watch the game back too. And I always struggle with that in real time because Vrabel doesn't have the same angle that we do on all these different things. He doesn't have the television monitor. He's got, assistant coaches in his ear telling him what's going on and all this different stuff. But his vantage point immediately after the game is different than what we just saw and what we've had access to. So the day after is always a better and more productive press conference from that standpoint. But in seeing what Malik has to offer, there's still a lot of stuff that they need to clean up. So when we did stock up and stock down from preseason game number 2 earlier in the show, Malik Willis for me was, I think stock up, but not drastically. I think incrementally. And incremental growth is what you are craving right now because you don't have to rush him. There's no urgency for him whatsoever. That's the beauty of all this. Charles Davis on the call for WKRN News 2. He's going to call all 3 of the Titans preseason games as he does for their television network in the preseason. He'll join us coming up next. Welcome back. Charles Davis going to join us here in just a second. The show is always powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com. So a lot of different takeaways from preseason game number 2. A lot of takeaways from how you saw the week of work against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Titans kind of manifest on Saturday evening at Nissan Stadium. A great environment and a lot of praise pouring in for the preseason broadcast crew with Dan Hellie and Charles Davis and our friend Kayla Anderson getting some sideline work as well. I'm not sure where Corey was, but I know that the WKRN News 2 crew does a great job with the sideline reporting, no matter who's in there. But to kind of go through all the different layers of this, it does take some nuance and a tremendous amount of detail work that particular broadcast crew and that Mike Keith and Titans Radio does. It's just a different kind of a game that you're calling during the preseason. And fortunately for all of us who consume this locally, and certainly for me when I get the opportunity to watch the television copy back the next day, Charles Davis, Dan Hellie, and Kayla Anderson on Saturday did a tremendous job. Charles joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? It's good to hear your voice again, and thank you for the very kind words. We always have fun doing it, and we just hope that it's received by the fans in the vein that it's intended. We want to give them as much as we can about the Titans. That's the beauty of preseason. You don't have to worry about the other team. There's none of this fair and balanced. This is all a talk show for the home team and how we expect them to do.
It's just it gives off that vibe. It's cool, I think, for people to hear you articulate the approach that you take and kind of the aesthetic that you guys are working towards, because it definitely comes across that way. And I think it is interesting to hear that just different kind of a style than what you normally associate with play-by-play and analysis on a television broadcast.
Yeah, I thank you for that observation, because it's one of those things where your natural instinct when you do it week in and week out is to make sure you are fair and balanced, because that's the way it is. And fortunately in the league, people understand that even though once the season begins, the fair and balance is what we're striving for, because when the season begins, you don't have a dog in the fight as a broadcaster. You shouldn't, right? Now, fans will hear what they want to hear. And typically, if your team is losing, the broadcasters are biased for the other team. That's just a basic general rule. We understand it. We know how it works because fans are passionate. But when you are working for a team in the preseason, it's their broadcast. It's their team. It's their strengths, their flaws, where they got better in the offseason, where they might have missed. But the emphasis is on the positive. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's what fans want to hear. It's like, listen to your local radio crew. I don't care if it's college, pro, whatever. You're really not there because you want the other side's view. Now, you may have to point it out as the game goes on, but you're really doing it with the lens of how does it affect the home team. If they're getting beat up, you got to talk about how does it affect them. If they're winning, you talk about it that way. So that's just kind of the way it goes, although it does make for a little bit of a funny conversation when you're walking out there in pregame and I've got a Titans polo on and I run into we were in Baltimore and I ran into Sashi Brown, the president of the team. He's like, I have to admit I'm a little confused, Charles. Are you still with CBS? I said, yeah. He goes, well, what's with the Titans polo? I said, I do their local broadcast. He goes, oh. See, if you're in the league, you kind of get it. And I was like, Sasha, you know when the season begins. He goes, yeah, I know. I said, because my broadcast partner, Evan Washburn, is doing sidelines for the Baltimore Ravens pregame.
Yeah, I saw Evan down on the sideline. I was like, hey, you're doing preseason. That's fun.
So it was funny when Ben Roethlisberger was in the league. Whenever we did a Pittsburgh game, he'd go, oh, there's the Ravens. And he'd always give Evan a lot of crap about it. But he understood, Evan was doing his best to be fair and balanced when the season began. And he doesn't do his best, he does it. So anyway, I probably spent too much time on it. My apologies.
No, of course not. I think people enjoy these kind of conversations because it makes them – I think it just makes people feel more a part of the broadcast. But, of course, so does watching – their favorite team, and certainly Titans fans getting another interesting sample size of what a lot of the depth, some starters, but a lot of the depth is looking like on this team. For the quarterbacks, Charles, let's start there. Yeah. Malik, again, in a larger sample size, some areas of growth that you observed from 1 week of work heading into Baltimore, the joint practices, and then kind of seeing what carried over into Saturday night's game. What was your general assessment of what Malik Willis was able to do?
Buck, I thought that he did show growth from week 1 to week 2. I don't think there's any getting around it, and I don't think that's just simply being a Titan-centric view. Like, I think that if you came in and you watched him week 1 and then you came back and watched him week 2, if you scouted for any other team in the league, your report would say you saw growth. And the areas of growth were exactly what the coaches were asking from him. Less off schedule, exit the pocket, go show off your leg. More, can you get it to the receivers or give them a chance downfield? Now, that didn't mean he stayed in the pocket the entire time, but I tried to mention during the game, they're not asking him to stay every single time. They're just asking him not to exit on the first sign of trouble every single time.
Right.
There's a balance. You got to understand when to go. Bum Phillips, when he was coaching the Oilers, had one of my favorite statements. He said, there's nothing worse than coaching a player who never does what you ask him to do ever. He said, you know what else is bad? A player who does everything exactly how you ask him to do it every single time. Yeah. In other words, know when to break the rules. Okay, know when to go a little off schedule. Know when to exit the pocket, but know when to stay in on a 3-step, 5-step drop, hit your back foot, hit your target. I thought the touchdown throw to Chigoquanquo was his best play because he stayed in there. He went through probably his second, third progression to hit Okonkwo, and he didn't rabbit out of there.
Right.
I thought that finally, hey, there it is. And it wasn't finally. He hit a few of those earlier. But, Buck, here's the thing what people have to understand, and I'm not saying it in any type of a condescending world. Everyone work with me and think about anything you do for your living, for going to school, for doing whatever. And it's brand new subject matter, brand new experience, brand new place. Does it feel like it comes at you and it overwhelms you initially?
No question.
Right?
No question.
And that's where he is right now. And in week 1, you and I both know it's warp speed, okay? Week 2, still super fast, but all of a sudden, occasionally a little glimmer of it. As time goes on, that's the term, the game slows down. It just means that your process is slowed down. You have more confidence in what you're seeing, what you're feeling, whatever. And let's just be frank about it. This Tennessee Titans staff is giving him every opportunity to win the number 2 job. They've got to believe that if he wins the number 2 job, if something happens to Ryan Tannehill, he'll be good enough to keep them in contention for what they have out there, which is high hopes and a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But this doesn't count out Logan Woodside, despite the fact it certainly appears Willis is outplaying him, but they know what they have in Woodside. He's played behind the third line every game. He's had more people in his face. It's been more difficult for him. But this staff knows what they have. It's going to come down to a matter of who is our number 2 and where's the trust factor for that in terms of if Tannehill goes down, we still believe we can compete and win. That's what they're looking for from their quarterback.
And the operations is something that Vrabel spoke on specifically yesterday, Charles, when we kind of went back through with him the day after, just basically trying to. There were some things that they liked, as you said, the clear and obvious working through the progressions on the touchdown, the timing on the route over the middle to Nick Westbrook-Akina on
Beautiful.
1st and 10 in the first quarter. It was, he hit the drop, he got the pass off, he saw the completion, and he had proof of concept from what he's been doing in practice, and he saw it in front of him, and he hit it just right. That's the kind of stuff that you're looking at and saying, okay, there's the execution, but everything else, the vast majority of the battle, everything that you're doing pre-snap, that's what keeps Logan Woodside in this thing, and I think people lose sight of that when they just see football in front of them.
Absolutely. Perfectly stated in my opinion. I do hope that in the broadcast I was clear enough. I worry about that a little bit. If I'm Logan Woodside and Logan Woodside's people, you're like, hey,
sure.
Davis, everything's not about Willis,
Yeah.
And unfortunately it is. It absolutely is. And I'm not trying to denigrate Logan Woodside at all. In fact, I hope I went and made sure everyone understood. He's been under way more duress in the preseason. Not that Willis hasn't been. That's not my point. But think about it. Can you think of a throw Logan Woodside made that was 1, 2, 3, and he threw the ball into a clean pocket?
No, we were talking about that. The questions about that offensive line depth are clear and obvious, Charles, and I think it really affects how you view these quarterbacks for people consuming this just on first watch.
Yeah. If Logan Woodside's worked behind the first-team offensive line, I don't think that he's thrown 3 interceptions in preseason. Okay? He's made a couple of throws that haven't been good throws, but it wasn't a clean pocket where it was a good throw. He had people in his face, and he threw short on 2 of them. So, again, the coaches understand that. The coaches know it. I think the fans do get it, but it's hard not to unwrap that present you get right away. And the present you got was Malik Willis. I mean, it's just hard. Like, when that present comes through, and it's sitting there, and it doesn't have to be the holidays, right? It can just be a present, Cam. Your parents are like, hey, you got to hang on for a minute where, your birthday's in 3 days. Don't open it yet. You're tearing a little piece of the corner. You're shaking it. You're trying to feel, okay, what is it? You want to unwrap it right away. That's Malik Willis. Logan Woodside, he's the gift you got a couple of years ago, and you enjoyed playing, and it was great. And the old dependable sitting in the corner for a while until you needed him again. And right now they're trying to determine if he's that guy, and they should go with him because of where this team is. Mark, I'll put it to you. I'll just be frank with you. If the Titans' expectations would be Houston's this year, then Malik Willis would already be the number 2 when it'd be a fight.
Yeah.
Because we're done here. But the Titans are thinking bigger, and rightly so. Who's the right guy in case something happens? Because we've seen how that works. When Nick Foles wins you a Super Bowl coming off the bench and you have a good team, that was a message to everyone out there. You better have a good backup if you have aspirations of going deep in the playoffs and winning. Can you have that quarterback who's dependable? Logan Woodside, they know they can do that with. They got to determine whether they believe it with Malik Willis right here, right now.
And certainly with the recently expanded regular season, the backup quarterback has never been more important for some of these teams who are just trying to survive a stretch. But this is why Charles Davis is the best. Charles Davis, of course, of the Titans preseason broadcast, WKRN, on Saturday night against the Arizona Cardinals. 6 p.m. is kickoff, and, of course, the NFL on CBS throughout the course of the regular season, because he just put the backup quarterback competition in the context of the plot line of Toy Story, and I thought that was exceptional, Charles. I saw Logan Woodside as the Woody doll getting dropped into the box at the start of the movie. I got emotional there.
I love that. That is great. And by the way, by the time we got to Toy Story 3, if you didn't tear up on that one, then you're just not with us as a regular human being. I got misty on Toy Story 3 on an American Airlines flight watching it.
That is such a plain movie to watch too. Toy Story.
It got me. Here I was, Mr. older guy, the whole thing, and I'm like, oh. No.
It's absolutely a test of humanity. Do you get dusty during Toy Story 3? Charles Davis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Caleb Farley is a curiosity to Titans fans, obviously, but I love that they played him a considerable portion of the snaps, 26 in total on defense, some work on special teams as well. Are you seeing him get better through the expanded reps that he's taking, Charles? Because it's just such a small sample size of work for him.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, because normally a first-round pick like him is not playing as much as he's playing right now, but he didn't get enough time last year before the injury, didn't get enough time at Virginia Tech because, look, he was picked on upside and traits more than actual production. And that a lot of people do that. That's just, you got to project it. Look at Jacksonville this year, taking Trayvon Walker as opposed to Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
You're betting on the rise, right? You're betting on, here it comes, buzzword, upside, right? You're betting on all those things. And a lot of times that comes true. But he's had to play, and I applaud the Titans staff for doing that. What I found interesting, Buck, was he didn't start the game. There's only one play, so it almost got missed in there. Roger McCreary started the game after making the tackle on the opening kickoff. He was at outside corner. And then they ran Farley in on the next play. Now, I don't know exactly what happened, and there may not truly be a story there. Sometimes a mix-up happens and all that. But he needs to be out there playing. And in game one, you remember how Mike Vrabel talked about you got to know where the sticks are and know what to play, and they threw a first down right in front of him early in the ball game? Did you notice how he figured it out in this game and was able to make a play early in the ball game on a key play?
Oh, it was beautiful. The closing play that he made. I thought it was one of the best plays of the game.
It was gorgeous. Exactly what you look for. You saw him at practice the first day against Tampa, I'm quite sure. Day 2 was way better for him against Tampa than day 1 was. He's making progress, but he needs reps. He's not your normal second-year, first-round pick who played 16, 17 games. He didn't. So he needs the reps. Plus, McCreary's come along so fast that I truly think it's a battle out there. Now, what I think might happen, and we'll see, Elijah Molden's health is going to determine a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's not fully ready to go, if he doesn't get the reps in preseason, he hasn't played either one of the first 2 preseason games, I see McCreary moving inside to the nickel full time and Farley able to stay outside and play more, if that makes any sense. Right now, it's a battle between the two of them. They may both be on the field almost full time if Elijah Molden's not ready to go. And even if he is, the way that they like McCreary and the way that he's playing, he offers a little more speed inside at nickel. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, where Molden makes things up is he's got instincts that are just,
He's so good on pressures, Charles. Like, that's the thing. That's the only thing that kind of tips. I mean, there are things that tip the odds in Molden's favor. Obviously, experience, and he's such a sound tackler at the point of attack like that. That just kind of comes through when you watch him on tape. But I love that you brought up the McCreary thing with Farley, because that was initially my only reason why I kind of talked people through the idea. Well, just because Molden's hurt doesn't automatically mean that McCreary is going to be their nickel defensive back, even though they physically look alike.
No, it's not an automatic, because Molden offers so many things that you talked about. And I said it when he came out in the draft, and I stand by it. Every year I kind of get that little spidey sense thing about who is my instinct defensive back. And Tyrann Mathieu, patron saint of it in terms of modern football. Always around the ball, always making plays. The guy just kind of gets it. Antoine Winfield in Tampa, he came out, and I felt the same way about him. When Molden came out last year, he was my guy for that year. This year, it's someone in your division by the name of Jalen Petrie at Baylor, who's that guy that I get that same sense about what we call a ball magnet. Casey Hayward out of Vanderbilt, when he came out of school, he was a ball magnet and continues to kind of be one in the NFL. It's those types of players that just like when the right play is going to be made. Elijah Molden is a lot like that. So that's why, I say it's truly, to me, it's a pitch battle outside. But it's, inside, it just doesn't mean automatically that McCreary bounces inside. Elijah Molden still got a lot to say about it, but health's going to be the key for him.
Charles Davis, he's the best. He's on the preseason broadcast with Dan Hellie, with Kayla Anderson, with Corey Curtis.
We get Corey back this week, Buck, which is really great. Kayla did a wonderful job, and we're really happy to have her. But Corey is wonderful because during our broadcast, I'm able to ask him and just throw things to him because he knows his team so well.
Yeah.
That he's really a third guy for us, whether he's up in the booth, whether he's on the sidelines. And I love that he has such a viewpoint and understanding about the team that we can let him roll on that. And I'll finish with this. Backup quarterbacks, if you don't think they're valuable, Arizona rolls into town this week, right? 2 years ago, Kyler Murray dinged down the stretch. Arizona with a chance to make the playoffs. They had to play Chris Streveler, who came out of the CFL.
Mm-hmm.
That was an abomination. Okay? They got crushed, missed the playoffs. You don't think it's valuable. That was a playoff team 2 years ago. That as soon as they lost Kyler Murray and Chris Streveler had to play, it was game, set, and match.
Oh,
You don't want that happening with your team.
I was looking at the opposing sideline on Saturday, and Blaine Gabbert played a lot of football, Charles, and I felt a similar way watching him and Kyle Trask kind of trying to make it work.
They don't have Tom Brady. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are extremely vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's no question. I felt much better about the Titans' depth after seeing what the Bucs had on offer, especially on the offensive line. Charles will be back on the broadcast 6 p.m. Saturday night, WKRN here locally. Of course, you can catch Charles on CBS, the NFL on CBS, with his great broadcast crew during the regular season as well. Always a great pleasure to speak with you, my friend. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy.
Right back at you, Buck. Thanks for having me. Look forward to seeing you this week back in Nashville, okay?
Absolutely, sir. That's Charles Davis with us on 104.5 The Zone. We talked about two players. We talked about two players in 20 minutes. I love conversations like that because Charles just has such a depth of knowledge, and it's always really engaging. Polls are next. Wrapping up on a Monday. We are, at least. Blaine and Mickey are at Titans practice. That's where I'm headed after this. Do they have a player?
Well, their show coincides exactly with practice. So we're going to get a player after practice, and you'll hear from that player on Tuesday.
Okay. Do they know the player?
Do not know who yet.
All right. Excellent. Roll the dice. So you'll hear that interview at some point that they'll do out at training camp. I'm headed there directly after this. I have to figure out what is going to be efficient because I've not yet eaten today. The show is during a weird time. And I do not, lust after 4-hour-old veggie breakfast burritos the way that Lucas just did. I'm sorry to betray a confidence that what you just did was disgusting.
I don't have shame.
You don't have shame about what you just did?
No, I microwaved it.
Okay. Nashville SC, not living in shame, living good. After last night's result, Hani Mukhtar's goal, man, the first one. Woo! That's it. I mean, what is the angle on that?
Yeah, that was an impossible angle. I mean, that looked like it was maybe 2-3 yards right off the goal line. I don't know how he was able to do that. And then the free kick was just picture perfect as well.
The initial one defied physics. I was trying to figure out how you got the launch angle to make a play there. But a big win for Nashville SC last night. You were not in attendance.
I was not in attendance. I stayed home. I watched Game of Thrones.
I did
after I watched the Nashville SC game.
No spoilers, but okay, just good or bad?
Good.
House of Dragons?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
You back in?
Yep.
When it transitioned, this is the only spoiler I'll give. When the end of the episode finished and it transitioned into the original Game of Thrones music, I got hype. I got hype. I was pissed because prime time was on right at when Game of Thrones started. A to Z Sports prime time. I read the promotional stuff wrong. It was 9 Eastern, not 9 Central. Anyway, polls.
Stop the count. Stop the count. The polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Rising Show daily correspondent, Lucas Polzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They will deliver it to you when it's manufactured. Which Titans player's stock went up on Saturday? Kenneth says the rabbit hunter with a hammer, Kyle Phillips.
Yes, it's a great Mike Vrabel line. Kyle Phillips stock up. Joe Jones was my biggest stock up. Saw a nice sample size from him. Caleb Farley also stock up.
Can I go Josh Kalu?
You may.
Laid a big hit in the first half. I believe he was the Titans' second leading tackler. And I found out that he has probably the best Twitter handle on the Titans roster, Blues Kalooz.
Yeah, and Josh. It's fun to have Josh back. Josh, an interesting dude to talk to. But also, he got ruled out with a groin injury.
Right.
So, yeah, not maybe stock down again. Stock neutral?
Which Titans player's stock did go down on Saturday? Puka says Dylan Radins for being exposed as a second-year player. I think just the Titans' right tackle situation as a whole, you could say, is stock down right now.
That is my position, yes.
Yeah. Does Andy Reid like to live dangerously? 68% say yes.
I don't know why, just it's like when Charles Davis was talking about backup quarterbacks and Toy Story came into my mind. I don't know why. Like Andy Reid in a Hell's Angels vest or something like that, ripping a motorcycle with a cheeseburger is akin to me, thinking that he's ridiculously reckless for playing Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and any other Chiefs star. Trey Smith, get him out of there. Get them all out of there. Andy, what are you doing?
Who's more at fault for Brew McCoy still not being eligible for the Vols? 55% say it's USC, 45% say it's the NCAA.
It would seem to be USC at the root of the issue, even if the NCAA is not necessarily efficient in their work.
How comfortable are you with Caleb Farley starting for the Titans? Very comfortable, kind of comfortable, or not yet. 54% say they're kind of comfortable. 35% are all in on Caleb Farley. 11% say no.
35% of you are blind homers. I would ride with the majority, the 54%. I think it's fine. I think if you threw him out there week one, I'd feel okay. I think that I like Roger McCreary better on the outside. And I think they might too. Something to keep an eye on as we continue into the last week of training camp, which, by the way, begins today. Heading to practice after this. Blaine and Mickey will be live. 3HL. I'll be back on 3HL at around 5:20 this afternoon to talk about what we learned at practice. Will be a great time had by all. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I will recap practice tonight on primetime, and we will certainly do it again at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Some Vols talk as well. See you guys.